Today you'll learn about verb tenses. What is a verb? If you think back to our previous lessons, we've talked about how a verb shows action. The verb that I'm doing right now is talk. The other verb that I'm doing right now is sit. The other verb that I'm doing right now is listen, right? We could say the teacher sits, sits would be the verb. The teacher talks, talks would be the verb. The teacher listens, listen would be the verb. So a verb shows action in our sentence. Sometimes the verb is showing an action that already happened. This is a past tense verb. So past means that it's in the past, it's already happened, it's over with. So a past tense verb is describing an action that's already happened. Here are some examples of past tense verbs. Yesterday we walked to the school. Walked is our verb that shows that the action has already happened. Last year we traveled to Arizona. Traveled is the verb and it shows that the action has already happened. I already typed my paper. Typed is the verb, it's the action, and it shows that it's already happened. Do you notice anything about past tense verbs? Verbs in the past tense usually end in the letters ed. I want you to stop and think. Think about the word look. If I describe something in the past with look, what would the verb be? What about if bake is in the past? What would the verb be? And if open is in the past, what would the verb be? Go ahead and pause the video. All right, let's check these. Look becomes looked if it's in the past, and bake becomes baked if it's in the past, and open becomes opened if it's in the past. Each of these verbs have the suffix ed to tell us that it's in the past and is already done. Sometimes the verb is showing an action that is happening now. This is a present tense verb. Here are some examples of present tense verbs. She sings in the shower. Sings is our verb. It's showing the action in the sentence. Liam is raising his hand. Raising is the verb. It's the action in the sentence. I played the flute in the band. Play is the action. It's our verb in this sentence. Present tense verbs don't have a common ending, like our past tense verbs that have ed on the end. Verbs in the present tense usually end in s or ing. Sometimes the verb is showing that an action repeats or does not stop. Those verbs don't have a special ending, so there's not a consistent rule like we have with our past tense verbs. Sometimes the verb is showing an action that is happening later. This is a future tense verb. Let's look at some examples of some future tense verbs. We will visit Grandma next week. Will visit is our verb that shows that it's in the future and it's the action in the sentence. He will make dinner when he is hungry. Will make is the verb in the sentence showing that that we're going to make it, but it's going to be in the future. I will call you when I get there. Will call is the verb, and it's showing that it'll happen in the future. Do you notice anything about future tense verbs? Pause the video and think about it. Future verbs in the future tense usually include will. So if we go back to our examples, will visit, will make, will call. So let's look at the examples below. Read, draw, think. If these are in the future, what would the verb be? Pause the video and think about it. All right, the future tense of read is will read. The future tense of draw is will draw. The future tense of think is will think. Now we're going to practice identifying if a verb is in the past, present, or future tense. Example number 1. Faith will brush her teeth before she goes to bed. Will brush. Is that in the past, the present, or the future? Pause the video. Our favorite team is winning the game. Winning. Is that in the past, the present, or future tense? Pause the video. The student smiled when he saw his test score. Is smiled in the past, the present, or future tense? He loved going to the zoo when he was younger. Loved. Is that in the past, present, or future tense? Pause the video. The teacher writes a note to Jill's parents. Writes. Is that in the past, the present, or future tense? Pause the video and take your time. Faith will brush her teeth before she goes to bed. Will brush has that clue word of will, so we know that it's in the future tense. Our favorite team is winning the game. Winning is in the present tense. The student smiled when he saw his test score. Smiled has that suffix or ending letters of ed, so I know it's in the past tense. He loved going to the zoo when he was younger. Loved has the suffix or ending letters of ed, so I know it's in the past tense. The teacher writes a note to Jill's parents. Writes is in the present tense. Besides looking at the ending on the verb, how else can you tell what tense the verb is? Pause the video and think about it. Besides looking at the ending on the verb, you can also use the other words in the sentence to help you decide if a verb is in the past, present, or future tense. If we're talking about something that's obviously in the future, then I know my verb is a future tense verb. If we're talking about something that's already happened, we know that it's a past tense verb.